Okay, here we go. All right. And we are live. Totally fine. Here we go. Our guest this week, welcome back. Our guest this week has been praised by Bela Fleck as one of the best technical players ever. He is on the top three fingers, five-string banjoists in the world and has taken the single string technique to new heights. As a protege of jazz guitarist John McLaughlin, he is well known for his meticulous and technical playing style, incorporating anything from modern jazz to world music and everything in between. Seen regularly with his Deering Tenbrooks Legacy, we are honored to welcome Mr. Ryan Cavanaugh. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're very welcome. And with me, as always, is Mr. David Bandrowski, all the way out on the East Coast. And I think we'll kick off. Ryan, do you want to play us in a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Ryan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, what you been up to during lockdown and everything?
Lots of practice. You know, thinking about practicing, thinking about what I'm going to practice next. A lot of listening to music. You know, the concept of with great discipline comes great freedom. It's kind of what I'm going for in this time at home.
Right. Right.
So
Do you have
I'm
any-
listening to a lot of different stuff. Yeah.
What have you
some
been
of that
listening to?
stuff.
What kind of
Tried
stuff
some
have you
of
been
that
listening
stuff out. I went back and I listened to some of those records produced by Quincy Jones.
Did a lot. He produced a lot.
Yeah, a lot. So I kind of dabbled. I went through and listened to a bunch of those. I really like the bass on those and the drums. And I kind of got. I really like some of those chord voicings that some of those type of chords you hear, especially in the Michael Jackson songs.
Right.
So for fun, I did that to tune in a synthesizer pickup that I have on another banjo, and kind of learn how like I would phrase over that if I were to improvise over those chords. So
How is it playing with this like a synthesizer banjo, like the attack and everything on it?
the Fishman triple play pickup makes it great.
Yeah.
It's like an advancement. You know, you can just plug it right into your computer.
And do you have to change kind of your right hand technique at all in more of a guitaristic sort of approach? Almost?
Yeah, it really like as far as I'm going to try to change the term from single string to linear melodic.
Sure.
Because the single string just sounds so caveman. We're in 2020 here, folks. Let's call it linear melodic, okay?
Right.
But I'm social engineering here. No, but it really helps with my, that type of playing. Phrasing and pure melody, regardless of what strings I'm choosing to play. Playing with a synthesizer has just really helped, that linear melodic playing. You trying to make sense doing that without using, the standard banjo techniques out there.
Right.
It's a challenge I like. I like doing it, It's like surfing.
How's it like surfing?
It's like anything that you have to relate that type of, you have to, in order to have an idea, you take a risk having that idea, especially if it comes into fruition. But to have a new idea, to see if it works, you have to try it, So that's kind of the direction I think about it. That kind of relates to everything.
All right.
And I kind of put the banjo in that framework when I work on the artistic side of it.
Cool. Why don't you talk a little bit about your linear melodic approach as you know, you kind of I know you have you've kind of took it in a new direction, so why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there was just other music outside of banjo music that I wanted to play on the banjo just because it was beautiful or it grabbed me in some way. And, I was never much one, as everyone knows, for musical boundaries. So I try everything. And one of the things I was trying was jazz. And that was the first thing. And these horn players had such beautiful melodies, they're Charlie Parker melodies that are just single notes, but just something like came across. I was like, can I do that on a banjo? And they said that with this crazy 3-finger bluegrass technique, there should be no reason why that hand should have a problem.
Right. Why you can't get enough, you can get enough notes out.
Right. But I couldn't play to start off with.
Right.
Make that a goal.
Right.
And I had no idea what the notes on the fretboard even meant back then when I started playing like this. So, I mean, it was songs like and let's see.
Yeah, you just take a fiddle tune and you turn it into the style.
Yeah. Something similar to that. That's what I learned first, because I wanted to play along with the fiddle player if I could go to a jam.
Were you like that sound? With the triplets was very Irish. Were you going to Irish sessions at all, or was it all kind of bluegrass sessions?
My instructor at the time, this guy named Rex McGee.
Yeah.
He plays fantastic Celtic banjo. I mean, he sounds very, very authentic, even to the guys that are Irish.
Sounds like a tenor banjo, almost.
Right, almost like a tenor banjo, but with this beautiful 5-string tone. And I heard him doing the triplets, and it made those old songs that when I was a child, I heard from cartoons and pop culture stuff. It made them sound legitimate music again, instead of the joke that cartoons kind of made them.
Right.
Some of the tunes were fantastic, the way he did them like that. I mean, he would play that I'm doing a loose interpretation of what Rex actually sounds like, but that's what inspired me to learn those songs that way.
Right there, what really sounded good, what caught my ear most was just the triplets that you're doing were really clean. It's easy to just go 1, 2, 3 on with your fingers, but with the 5-string banjo to really get that super tight triplet that Irish tenor banjo player does.
Yeah, I think I also don't straighten my picks out when I get them. All right, and I don't bend them up, but if I stick them into the camera, everybody always wants to see these.
Yeah.
I use this, what do you call it?
Blue chip pick.
Blue chip Jerry Douglas pick, and then, my picks are just on my finger.
They're just pretty average, pretty normal, yeah.
Yeah, just pretty normal, and I like them to stick out because I'm trying to pick the notes off of the banjo. So I kind of, the touch I get with them must be similar to a flamenco guitar player would have with the leverage of his fingernails.
Right.
But so I had to practice that stuff. I mean, it was a little goal.
Yeah.
Sorry about the bouncy camera here. It was a little goal, to do that. Right.
Yeah.
you know, I'd play all kinds of goofy stuff with it just to make sure, like, you know.
Right.
I would just try to play everything I knew with that.
Mm-hmm.
And just get. It was a little thing, you know. If you do it 10,000 times, which is pretty easy, you'll get it. But that's
Sounds
kind of
like you have a real nice light touch, because I know doing those triplets on like the fourth string, the third string, and the fourth string, it can get a little hairy sometimes if you're digging too deep.
I certainly didn't have the light touch to start out with.
Right.
It probably sounded like everybody else did.
Any recommendation on people trying to focusing on getting there, just the touch wise?
Keep doing it. You know, the more you do it.
Right.
I mean, the more you do it, the more you connect with the instrument, you know. So that's what I say. Like, try to get it smooth like a painter. You know, like something with some finesse. You know, you can do a lot with this. There's a, you know, it's fun to do on bass. You can, if you learn to do this on banjo, you can also do it on electric bass.
Right.
So I went back to electric bass after I had taught myself this technique on the banjo, and I could play some of the Jaco Pastorius too. You know?
That's cool.
So, and the picks work great on an electric bass.
Oh, you use the picks on the bass too?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, just if I can jump in real quick, Ryan.
Yeah.
We have a question from Peter, actually a couple of questions from Peter. The first one he asks is related to what you were just talking about. He asks, can you show us the triplets in slow motion so that we can understand or see what you're doing, and maybe bring that camera down and slow it down some?
Maybe in a tune?
Maybe, yeah. Just so I think they just so they can see exactly what your fingers are doing in relation to the notes.
Let's see. What? How about if I give it a fiddle tune like a? All right, I just end it with thumb, index, middle. Let's see. So I'm going. Right. All right, you can do something.
Yeah, you're doing a forward roll. You're doing something middle.
I lead with the index finger a lot. That helps me. Kind of helps me like set up for my. Right.
But you aren't leading with the index on the triplet. You're leading with in the phrase, and then the
triplet is just thumb, index, middle. It's
right.
Yep. And that's all it is. I mean, you can put that in any you know, fiddle tune really that has that lineage or pedigree, you know, like. My bad. So, apologies for my botched presentation of squirrel hunters there. But that's how I kind of get it done. I just kind of like do the thumbs. You know, I put the triplet where it needs to be and a note before or after it.
Right.
And you know, it just takes as much listening to Irish music, you know, and figuring out who you want to play like, or the style you want it to come across. I mean, mine is a loose, broad interpretation of all kinds of stuff that I've heard Irish-wise. So I probably play my fiddle tunes in different styles from all over Ireland, depending on the version that I liked, but it fits, it's just because I listened to it.
Yeah. Have you spent much time in Ireland?
I went there a couple times, but just on vacation and stuff. Didn't really play there. I played the Cork Jazz Fest years ago, but I didn't get to see any traditional music,
Right.
So I just kind of take what I like and learn these versions of these tunes. Like, I don't know what version of Cooley's Reel I learned, but they might do that. They might consider that an odd placement of where the triplets go. I just kind of put them where I think, where I'm feeling it. Yeah.
And are you learning a lot of this stuff from records? Or are you learning it from like what's the name of that big book of Irish fiddle tunes?
Oh, O'Neill's Book of Irish Fiddle Tunes. Yeah. I've worn that book
from something like that too.
Yeah, and this is just one of the styles I focused on. That the triplets didn't just come from that. When that idea came and I learned how to do this across the strings, I was automatically trying to play what are the linear possibilities of this, So one of the first things, I think, I was playing over like a G minor chord, and I was going, I started with index, and I split the forward roll across the fourth string and the third, right? So I had an index, thumb, index, middle, and then the last three notes are a forward roll as well. Thumb, index, middle.
Yeah.
So I messed with that for a while till it got comfortable. It was not comfortable at first.
Yeah.
But with the forward roll split over two strings, a lot can be done there, technique-wise. Right, so I started coming up with more of that stuff, but what I didn't realize then is that I'd stumbled upon the bebop scale.
Right.
And it happened to line up, being just to the laws of bebop. Right, so it kind of started. I think one of Bela Fleck's tunes introduced that sound to me as well. I think it might have been. It was on his album. When they first went trio. I think it was some kind of bebop-y tune. It was cool, but that's the basic scale or whatever. So I kind of started. Well, I guess I'll explore that and see where it goes, and that little technique ended up into me learning a bunch of stuff, chromaticism. Different stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just kind of like opened my eyes to what I could do.
And you really got one of the things is you really got it smoothed out. I mean, playing the linear melodic style is the trick. A real trick on the banjo I find is it can be really kind of choppy sounding, and get it nice and legato sounding is difficult, especially with the metal picks.
Yeah, I want my my right hand to be able to follow my left. You know,
Right.
The left's the ones with all the ideas.
Yeah.
And if I can break through a certain ability level on that, then I can go back and this hand can just follow. I don't really have to worry about what it does now because of the,
Right.
all the little techniques that I learned that I'm sewing together.
Was there a time that it started to smooth out? I'm sure when you started, you had classic banjo, you sort of cha-cha-cha-cha, machines on
It
thing.
smoothed out. It smoothed out after 10 years with Bill Evans.
Right.
that steamrolled all of that out of me.
Right,
And,
right.
We played a lot of gigs together all over the world every night.
So
And,
why don't you talk a little bit, without going too in depth, about your time with Bill Evans?
yeah, it was my school.
Yeah.
I already schooled myself to get to the level to where Bela Fleck and John McLaughlin recommended me for that job.
Right.
But I had a long way to go at that point as well.
And for those who don't know, who there's Bill Evans, the sax player. Why don't you tell some people, explain a little bit about Bill Evans? Because I think a lot of
Bill
our
Evans
audience.
is one of the great modern tenor jazz saxophonists in the world. He has fantastic technique. He played with Miles Davis and Randy Brecker, and Dennis Chambers, John McLaughlin, you name it. He's a heavyweight musician, and I was in his band Soulgrass that he wanted to have a banjo and the instrumentation for, and I was recommended by some of my favorite players in the world, so I kind of had to live up to the. I was like, what did I get myself into, And so I did my homework and I asked questions constantly. The players in the bands there were a lot of different lineups, but from Sam Bush to Victor Wooten to recording sessions with Bela Fleck, Dennis Chambers. These were all my favorite musicians.
Yeah.
I got to meet some of my favorite players and play with them.
Right.
Sam Bush being just a highlight and a riot of a guy to hang out with.
Right. Yeah.
Really enjoyable stuff. But Bill's band let me and encouraged me to have my own identity as a musician. I wasn't told to sound like anybody. In fact, I was encouraged to stop sounding so much like John McLaughlin.
Right.
And I remember they gave me a hard time about that. I was like, how could you give anybody a hard time about that? Yeah, it ironed me out and gave me a lot of practice with the best players in the world. All of these people were name players that I played with, and it was like college and graduate school, in jazz fusion. So,
and you were pretty young when you got in that band too, because they're pretty, pretty seasoned players.
Yeah, I was definitely young by several decades in that band.
Right.
It was funny.
Yeah. Because you didn't go to a formal music school at all, really. You must have, right? I don't believe you did.
I did not.
Yeah.
I started studying. I started playing banjo when I was 10, and I started digging deeper into other types of music by the time I was 13 and 14.
Right.
As far as listening goes, and trying to play along with stuff. I had a music teacher when I was 15 or 16 tell me to get the book Improvising Jazz by Jerry Coker, and I studied that workbook very hard.
Yeah.
I did. It was a small, unintimidating book, and the philosophy in it spoke to me, and little did I know that a lot of greats had learned from that book. I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just happened just to be random that my high school music teacher was a jazz B3 organist.
You're lucky.
When he wasn't at work. So that's where I got all my... I like my voice leading.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. The harmony that you're doing is atypical of the 5-string banjo, and
yeah, it's very historical in the banjo in general, especially in where you're from in New Orleans. Yeah. But once you get a good instrument, like when I got my Deering Legacy, once you get a good instrument, you don't have to worry about it sounding good or not. I mean, it does what I want it to do with the chords, first of all.
Right. And it does, before we get into what you're playing on the left hand, on the right hand, you're kind of hitting 3 notes at a time, a lot of.
Yeah, I'm hitting 3-note chords.
Right.
And because I'm hitting 3-note chords, I can play 3 notes here on the, the first 3 strings, right?
The 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd string.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I can even use the 5th string, and then. Right, so I can do chords. I can do a lot of chord modulating, which means I can change keys a lot to relative keys. Like my favorite players, Bill Evans, the piano player,
right?
And some of my favorite keyboardists. I just like to I like to voice lead in that style. I learned those chord voicings out of Jerry Coker's Improvising Jazz. I could go back to like the first book.
Right.
These great voicings they give you.
Yeah, and when you're playing sounds very pianistic. It sounds less than like classic just jazz guitar.
Yeah, and I like practicing it like. I like trying to find ways to try to navigate it with rolls.
What do you mean navigating it with rolls exactly?
Thumb index middle, thumb index.
So arpeggiating through the shape.
Arpeggiating through the triadic changes, yeah. I like triads. And I like the blues, so.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought, but let's see. So how would you kind of take that if you're going into stepping onto sitting in on a gig like a jazz gig or an R&B gig and trying to take the banjo into that place? Is there an approach that you would do?
I'd make sure that I'd probably staked out the jazz band to see if they played some songs regularly that I knew. I'd probably stalk them a couple times, go have dinner there. Or if you get a guy to vouch for you, if you know a dude in that band that you're cool with.
Yeah, because walking in with a banjo on a modern jazz gig, right there, you're gonna get some.
Oh man, they're gonna laugh at you.
Yeah.
That happened to me. You have to have some brass monkeys, and you just got to walk in there and know a tune that they play. And a lot of times, some of those competitive bebop groups, they'll pick a song they know you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you go in there and what's the hardest? I mean, they could call any number of tunes on you, but try to know 3 or 4 big ones.
Yeah.
It's a hard sell.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it made me tough to have to go jam with guys. It's like, I'm gonna do this, damn it. I'm gonna get up there. I don't care how many whiskeys I have to drink to get the courage. But an electric banjo helps. I had the Deering Crossfire when I did all that.
Right.
I could go plug into a guitar player's amp.
Just plug immediately in. You don't have all this sound issue. You got to kind of set up on an acoustic instrument.
Yeah, the Deering Crossfire was a game changer for that, and that was a fantastic instrument. I mean, it never went out of tune. It was solid. I never had to worry about like, oh, I'm playing bad with these jazz guys because the weather's bad. You know, when acoustic banjos go out of tune in the humidity and stuff.
Right.
That banjo never did that.
Or you're plugging directly into a PA somewhere, and it's, you know.
Oh, right. Your banjo's feeding back. Yeah. That banjo made it so I could go play with those guys and sound good through whoever's amp was there.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember dragging a Fender Super Reverb to some of these just to play one song, you know, just to know I would sound really good.
Right.
So they'd be like, "Hey, we're getting banjo guy up now," and I'd be out pulling this like 75-pound amplifier out of the back.
Huge amp in. Right. You'd look ridiculous even if you were a guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a mission, man. I wanted to capture a sound and understand what that sound was about.
Yeah.
You got to be like, you got to be on safari to do that.
And you'd step in, and would you play ahead, or would you just comp and sit in and take your solo generally?
I would, you know, I'd fill the spot of a guitar player. They'd give me time.
Yeah.
You know, to build a solo. I remember one time these guys, I'd played with them before, but some other guy was leading the jazz combo, and they called "Have You Met Miss Jones" on me, and I'd only been playing changes for, I don't know, 2 years before that. They called that song and I didn't know it.
Bridge is tricky, you know, it goes to what, G flat or something.
Yeah, and you know, I can hear my way decently through something like that, or back then I did, and that and the distortion knob on that Roland jazz chorus I was playing through kind of helped me along in that to make my notes longer, so I could think about where the next change was. Right. But yeah, I mean, you got to be brave to do it. I mean, it's a cultural thing, you know.
Do you want to play like a standard?
Sure. Let's see. Let me make sure this is in tune. Let's see. I'll play the standard, Autumn Leaves.
There you go. All
That
right.
was amazing.
Oh.
That was really cool.
It's
Fantastic.
going for that
really cool.
French vibe, guys. That French vibe. Cheese, wine.
The hot club action. Hey, well, before we jump back in, I have a question here, like from Barbara. Barbara's here in San Diego, and she asks, "Did you study music theory or jazz theory at all?"
Lots. Lots. Yes, all of that stuff. Starting with Jerry Coker's improvising jazz book and the Charlie Parker Omni book in C major. I learned to read music, and I learned my favorite songs, and if I liked it and didn't know how to play it, somewhere in one of those books that I had, I could figure out how to do it. And I was also around people to ask, hey, how do I learn this? You know, I was around the best jazz players in the world, so it's like learning a language, you know. You can listen to it and fake it, but to really know what the words mean, you need to learn how to read it too. So to make that, I mean, to actually jump from the banjo technique that everybody... You know, it's like learning a different language completely.
Yeah, it's interesting that when you were commenting on you know, playing with super reverbs and different amps and stuff, you know, you can make a banjo sound like everyone what they feel a banjo would sound like. When you're playing just now, you can close your eyes and kind of imagine like a nice jazz hollow body or something playing through a nice clean amp tone. That's if you close your eyes, you can hear that, and it's coming from a 5-string banjo. It's
what I've always used synthesizers and pedals that are similar like that for. I practice jazz with a different sound. I don't practice it with the banjo sound.
Yeah.
They'll use an organ or a piano or a trumpet or a synthesizer and just try to do it, because it's like playing banjo blindfolded. You know, you can't rely on your same tricks when it's not sounding like that instrument at all. Yeah. So then now when I bring it back to the banjo, I can finally do what I wanted to do for 30 years. You know, I mean, I can make these melodies. You know, and do these things that don't sound banjo-like, and they aren't. I'm just painting with the banjo, you know.
Right. That's awesome. I have one more question before I hand it back over to David. This was Peter again, who asked the question earlier on, but he also asked, do you use different tunings for different kinds of music? What do you want to talk a little bit about any different tunings that you use, or do you keep it fairly straightforward?
Right now I'm doing a project with a great Indian violinist named Apurva Krishna, and also Rex McGee. He was my banjo teacher, but he also plays violin. And so I'm tuning my Deering Legacy in F, in open F.
Oh, wow.
Which is just a whole step down from G, you know. So I can play out of a D position, which I really like, and be in the key of C for the Indian music.
Could you give us a
Yeah, it's very similar to like a blues tuning on a guitar, you know, when you play in a D position out of like standard tuning. But since my standard tuning's down in F, this is C.
David, over to you.
Very nice. And so, tell us more about the project you're doing with this Indian violin player.
You know, I stay in touch with all the people I played with over the years, and especially the ones that have helped me the most. John McLaughlin, being the wonderful guy that he is, He's helped me out in a lot of ways, and including just introduce me to people and request that I do projects with them. This is a recent one where everybody's stuck in home. You know, being stuck at home unless you're trying to work all the time, it can really get at you. But everybody should know that all the professional musicians are using this time to really get creative if they stay inside the music business, because it's a tough business to be in, and we should all help each other out. I mean, while we're here, and there's not a lot of that going on these days. Yeah. You know, there's not a lot of people recommending, you know, people are playing with their friends. That's great, but, you know, we can get along like we're at camp too. We all have to live here together. So John McLaughlin loves to make those connections. I think it makes him happy to do it, but it makes us happy to do it to work hard for him and to you know, impress him, and because we learn so much from him.
And really keeps the music growing, you know, making those connections from different schools. Yeah,
it totally does. I mean, you know, he said in his email that, you know, Apoorva needs to learn, she needs to play with Western musicians, and you and Rex need to play with Eastern musicians, and I know you'll all get along, go for it. So, you know, it's a long process. I mean, you're passing around tracks over email and having somebody else put a part to it, and they might be busy trying to survive in their mask somewhere, and you know, if you have kids and whatnot, it's really hard. But luckily, with the electronic age, you don't have to go to a studio now if you have, you know, a mic and a preamp and GarageBand. You know, so.
And are these tunes traditional tunes, or is it original music?
We're gonna do original music. I think Rex did Squirrel Hunters. He sent the other day, so we're gonna be doing that with Carnatic violin on it. It should sound pretty cool.
And you've studied Indian music for a pretty long time. You played with some Indian musicians when you were younger too?
Yeah, I've casually studied it. I really liked, you know, pop culture wise, the Beatles, you know, those particular songs, the George Harrison ones.
Yep.
And I had, you know, the music has a similar, I guess it's like a droney pentatonic draw that mountain music does.
Right.
So.
And the banjo has that, you know, that sitar sort of, that Indian music sort of.
Yeah, that was my fascination.
It's a droney thing. You know?
A lot of people ask me what my fascination was with Rubens, you know, the Earl Scruggs tune, Rubens Train, for so long. It was that. It just sounded like that to me. You know, I just wanted to see what something like that would. How creative could I be with that? And I mean, I'm leaving intervals out. I mean, and just trying to, I kind of tried to do the John Coltrane thing with that song, where I could get real, you know, sing to some spiritual higher up through the music, like Jimi Hendrix. I kind of used Indian music along with blues to find my own way to that Jimi Hendrix sound.
Right.
Yeah, I like how they sound so similar. And mixing them was, I liked that candy, so I made it myself. But I loosely studied Indian music, and around the time I was really getting into Shakti, John McLaughlin's Shakti, when I was in my 20s, I ran into a sarod player that had studied at the Ali Akbar School out there in San Francisco. At Cal Arts? Is that in LA or San Francisco?
Yeah, it's in LA.
That's in LA. Okay, in LA. And he played very good sarod and very good tabla, and that's just what I happened to be listening to at the time. You know, and he's like, "Oh, you need to be in my band. We'll play some gigs." We became friends, and I started taking lessons from him, you know, and playing different gigs around town. You know, sometimes an Indian restaurant, sometimes a wedding. And, you know, I sat on my pillow and I wore my traditional garb, you know, just to sit in the back and be the protege on the banjo that was studying with, you know, my Yoda on the on the Sarod.
Right.
I did all that. I got into it, and I learned how to play some of his songs. And I just got the overall feel for what the language of that particular school of Indian classical music was from. So he was a North Indian classical player. There's a lot more structure there. There's like this long lineage of, you know, tradition, and very similar to bluegrass. Only these guys were more like Buddhist monks and Jedi. You know, they were very like serious about this music. It was like a kung fu movie. It was great.
Right.
I was totally into it. Like, you know, if you practice hard, you'll find this higher power in yourself. So, you know, I mean, those guys, you know, getting all worked up to shred. I got all my shredding from the Indian music.
Right.
You know, so that stuff came just from listening to Shakti, you know. And I'm doing all those downward sequences with thumb, index, middle on each string. All forward rolls.
Right. So it's a 3-note phrase on each string.
Yeah, right. I practiced it for hours, and you know, until I mean, some of my roommates thought I was crazy. Like,
yeah, he must have driven some people crazy.
And the banjo just calls for it with these picks. I mean, you can leverage them really well. And, but that's where a lot of that came from, playing with that guy. I really learned how. I didn't want to shred neoclassical Yngwie Malmsteen. I wanted to somewhat sound like. Well, there's a lot of people that influenced me, but like the fast playing like that was really. I heard John McLaughlin for the first time, and I was like, wow, I've only heard horn players do that. You know, express themselves with ease, and you have to have a light touch on the instrument to paint with it like that in order to not sound like a wanker.
Right.
That's basically we got to do it. It took a bunch of years to get there, you know, to not sound mechanical. I don't want to sound mechanical when I do that.
Right.
And John McLaughlin's the first person that I heard.
That sounds musical.
I heard him and Eric Johnson at the same time, and I said, man, these guys play really slick. Like, yeah, like Silver Surfer slick. I mean, I was just associating their playing with, when I was a kid, with all these different things that it evoked in my mind. Right. So that was a cool tale to chase, you know, like, and I remember mowing lawns to buy the double VHS Eric Johnson, like, how to play guitar course, you know, and like, you know, it was hours long, but I mean, it was fantastic. It was informative. I mean, John McLaughlin's came out years later when I'd started, after he'd got me the gig with Bill Evans. He sent me the guitar course that he put on DVD. So I studied that, you know, I just translated it all for banjo. Nothing licky. I don't want to play guitar licks, you know. Right. I want to be able to improvise. Yeah. It was all for the technique of this hand, pretty much.
And I've heard you say, you know, you've worked a long time to be able to have the technique to play a lot of notes really smoothly and melodically. I've heard you say you're kind of trying to remove some of those notes now.
Yeah. There's just habits that I listen to. I record myself most every time I play. And I listen back to my game. Yeah. And I pick myself apart. I'm my worst critic. You know, I'm sure some of you out there on the internet could beg to differ, and I'd love to hear from you. But really, I listen to it back and I pick myself apart and I kick my own ass. You know, and I also pass it pass my music to John McLaughlin and other players who I really admire, Dennis Chambers, and I say, hey, what do you think of this? Does it suck? Tell me what I could do better. I'm still doing that. I did it for years. I've always done it. And I try to weed that, I'll just try to avoid that curve in my improvising. And I'll tighten up, I'll tighten up a lot of things to a metronome, or if I don't like that something I'm doing in a song, I'll learn what I'd rather be doing, and I'll practice that ad nauseum. I mean, really, like if I'll take down a song, if you guys out there haven't broke down a song like this is really great to do. If you hear something that you're trying to learn, right? Like Turkey in the Straw. Right, here's the melody. Well, how do you do that? Well, break it down and learn each part ad nauseum. Cool.
Right.
If you get sick at playing it one spot,
Right.
and I start slow, and get a good classical tone.
Right.
See what it sounds like all over. Right, and then I start clicking the metronome onto it.
Yep.
And I'm always trying to push it. What can I do? What can I get away with? Because if you find out you have a physical proclivity to jump to that next tempo, you should, grab onto that.
Yeah.
And if you can do it in that sequence, it all depends on our nervous systems and our bodies and how we think. But and I'll learn the next part. Okay.
Yep.
I'll learn it ad nauseum and just or find a better spot to play it. But I literally will break songs down,
Right.
into 4 and 8 notes like that. And that's how I was taught.
Yeah.
It's
a good tip.
And
just watching your technique there. I was just saying, just watching your technique, I'm curious. You got such a nice touch on that right hand. When you walk around like the NAMM show and all these kind of things, you've always got these guys kind of pitching like grip strength and kind of just these things to kind of help your picking and your playing and your fretting and that kind of stuff. Do you ever get involved in it? Are there any exercises or anything that you do that doesn't involve the banjo that helps you translate onto your playing?
I recommend stretching your hands.
Okay.
Like getting one of those, there's a great yoga book that I have, hand yoga, breath and energy work for hands and mind, I think it is. A friend of mine's dad wrote the book, and they gave me the book. And I was already doing that stuff for a long time. I was like, man, if I'm gonna be like a banjo kung fu artist, I have to like stretch like one. And I do all this different stuff. I just get my hands, nice and limbered up, like before I'd play, even when I was a kid. Nice and warm, so you don't have to blow on them. And even if they were sweating, that was better than them being cold. You don't want to run your hands cold ever. Yeah, and I was told that by my Indian instructor too. Like, he's like, yeah, I pop my knuckles all the time, and you should always warm up before you play. Don't just jump on stage and rock real hard. And I crumpled newspapers.
Wow.
I would take like the Sunday page, like the big one, and just try to get it into a ball with one hand. That's how I worked out with it. It's like Bruce Lee stuff. And then I tied a rock to like a broom handle with a rope, and I'd twist the rope. Leave it on the back porch, and every time I go out there, I'd twist the rope.
Some guys are pumping, doing bench presses. You're sitting there doing this.
Yeah, I was all about the cheapest way to do it. I had to buy strings,
A bucket of rice works really well.
Bucket of rice.
Yeah, there's guys out there that do jujitsu and use that for grips and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it really worked. All that stuff really worked, and I also did proper posturing when I played. I don't my hand will get lazy sometimes, and my thumb will come up here, but for the most part, I like to keep my wrist straight, and I want that thing to work. I want it to look like thing from the Addams Family when it plays on when I play it. No, I'm kidding. But I want it to work well because I want it to be able to do what my mind tells it to do, and you have to practice that. You know,
Sure.
you have to practice improvising. You have to practice taking the chances, and that's what I like to do. You know.
What about breathing while you're playing? I mean, a lot of people tense up because they almost don't breathe normally.
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that has some kind of like ambidextrous type of thing to learn how to do. I never had a problem with breathing.
Okay.
I feel real relaxed when I play.
Sure.
I hate playing nervous.
Right.
And I hate when I'm put in a situation where I have to get on stage and like, if I know the song's easy, that's great. I'll improvise over it all day.
Mm-hmm.
But if I've never heard it and it's written for the sake of being hard or mathy,
Yeah.
I'd rather know it and go on stage so I can have fun. You know, and if you can have fun when you know you're in that situation, you can't do anything about it. That's the ultimate. But I really like to know it beforehand, to know stuff, so I can improvise over it because that's what I have fun doing.
And that almost can kind of. Next question is wondering if you ever experienced kind of any sort of nerves or stage fright, or just would knowing it so well kind of get you over before you even hit the stage.
It really does. I played in Sicily one time with Bill Evans and the Soulgrass Band, and I was fine. I was doing fine. We packed this. It was some kind of theater, you know, full of Italians, and the tour had been going on for a while. And some stagehand gets me high with a joint before I go on stage, and I was as nervous as I'd ever been. but I was nervous. I was shaking. It was good stuff, you know. Anyway, I had one choice. You know, I had a choice halfway through. I could see the band starting to look at me like, "What's wrong with him?"
Right.
And I had one choice: to either enjoy it for what it was or be scared. And when you change your mindset,
right,
I'm here to have fun. This is music. I'm musing. You know?
But I think that's a good for people that are kind of get nervous playing. You know, maybe remember to have fun. To don't take it seriously, but also don't take it too seriously.
Yeah, if you have a hard time laughing at yourself, don't play music. I mean, that's because you're gonna make mistakes. Everybody does. Like, there's not the perfection in it is, you know, I'm sure the perfectionists are driven towards classical music, you know, but I don't want to recite a speech on stage. I want to improvise my you know, freestyle. Because it's invigorating. I mean, it really is. It's, you know, if it's there's gonna be bad nights. There's built-in humility with doing it. I like what it's done more for my personality than my career. You know, it gave me there's a humble place you lie within yourself after that, because you've humbled yourself. Yeah. And but with great risk comes great knowledge. You know, so what did I learn from no, I didn't play so bad on the embarrassed night that I was super nervous to get on stage.
Right.
I didn't think I played bad, mostly because I had a big smile on my face and I was having fun the whole time. That can really fool an audience. You can play like shit and smile, and if they see you're genuinely having a good time, they'll forgive you for your mishaps. Yeah. But no, there are nights that were just totally awful for me, and because I was tired or didn't have any stress. And, you know, nobody in the band said anything to me because they knew I knew. And, you know, you need to know. Right. That's all there is to it, really. You know, there's no perfection, especially in improvisation. And that's what our lives are anyway, you know. Yeah. So I don't like to let the direction of my improvisations blow in the wind either. You know, I don't like it I don't intend them to get real weird. It depends how I feel that night, but, you know, kind of relates to everything.
Absolutely. I've got a couple of questions here that kind of tie in, if you don't mind, Dave.
Go ahead.
So one was from a customer, Neil in Canada. He emailed us earlier today, who asked, out of all the genres of music you play, what do you find the most fun to play? And when relaxing at home, what style of music do you play the most? And kind of in that same vein, Oscar from Madrid, Spain, which is awesome. Is it jazz music that you like to play more with the banjo? And he also requested, could you play something for us? Because I think he joined a little later than most of our viewers. But.
Yeah, I keep 3 things on my plate that I rotate with. I love Celtic music. I love jazz. And I also really do like bluegrass. And I've thrown some Indian music and blues in there too. So I kind of mix and match those a lot of the time with different musicians. And, you know, I don't like to label it as jazz because I'm trying to play creative, improvised music all the time. But if I had to say what it was, it would probably what I'm playing most of the time is jazz. Mainly because of the technical style that I'm using and the harmony on the instrument. Yeah. And, but sometimes I get tired of that. And I need to express myself something. I mean, it's hard. Jazz is hard. You know, but sometimes I'll need a vacation, you know. And when I take my little vacations from my whatever musical genre that I happen to be presenting in my life at that time or learning from, I might switch up to a different instrument, like an electric banjo. Or I might decide to do that. I might decide to go back to jazz on the acoustic banjo for a while. Or I tend to make instruments kind of guide my, you know, my studies too, you know. But yeah, I practice a lot of jazz. I like the changes in it. It makes me a better modern player when I have to play, when I play with funky drums and you know, a fusion ensemble. Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Do you want to play something for us?
Sure. Let's see.
Nice.
I'm just improvising.
Yeah.
I found some new stuff in there, and that's why I like to record every time I play.
Right.
Go back and find something new every time, but I learned jazz so I can write it. That's how I teach myself to get better at it. Whether I release a record on it or not, I think it's like my main cross-training music just because I like listening to it. I like the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
10 years in that genre, and I felt very welcomed and at home, and you know, it's a great art form. I really like it. Yep.
And your album, The Realist, you released this past winter, that was fully improvised, right?
Yeah, I was inspired by this, like the electric banjo I played it on, and there was a certain pedal that I played on there called a Maris Enzo. It's made by the Maris company, and the model is called the Enzo.
Right.
And it's a analog guitar synthesizer pedal. It's like a little box.
Right.
And it's a deep little box. And it sounds like all those classic synthesizers. And I used that on the record. I did the record in chronological order in like a week.
Uh-huh.
Might even have been 3 days over a weekend. And, you know, some of the songs I put a mic on the amp. Some of them I went direct. I experimented, but I was inspired enough to where I could improvise many things because this was a new setup for me at the time.
Right.
And I just simply used it to do the record.
Do you think you'll, like, when you would you be able to play those tunes again? Like if we were out of lockdown, you were going to play gigs, could you play some of those tunes off of the record, or are they so improvised that no, there's kind of stream of consciousness?
I could distill my themes from them that I built on and do improvisations based off of that. Yeah.
Did you have the kind of any sort of thematic ideas going in on it, or it was just straight?
I knew how I wanted the tonality of the instrument to sound.
Right.
And I was inspired by Bill Evans, the piano player, Pat Metheny, John McLaughlin, Bela Fleck, of course, and just all the great jazz players that I liked. Yeah. And you know, telling a story in the moment. It's like a photograph, only it takes longer to look at because it takes longer to listen. But that was my only idea. Other than that, I'm not aware that another banjo player has done that before in the jazz context.
Yeah.
Definitely got some nice comments from that record from some people that wanted to let me know they didn't like it, and that's good because I'm gonna do for you guys that don't like it. I'm gonna do a nice Jimmy Fallon style video where I read all those messages. At some point.
What did the people who didn't like it, what were they mentioning? Were they want to hear more bluegrass or something like that?
This is boring. This absolutely sucks. Whoever listens to this right now is a total idiot because it's not worth the shit. You know, just
no depth to it. Just
right. Just trolling. I'm sure there's people there. You know, God, if you've done anything outside of the box in your life, there's gonna be somebody in your life that has it out for you. You know, and like
that's also
banjo is a great way to absorb those
it's,
type of things.
It's good that you can show that was artistic. Usually, it's because you ruffled some feathers on some,
Right. I mean, in order to have an idea, you must risk being offensive.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're gonna put it out there, you better. And I have friends that work in like internet marketing and stuff, and my buddy in North Carolina looked at him. He's like, oh, that one has like 500 upvotes and 3 downvotes. He's like, you need to get those downvotes up. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, that means people are talking. Thought that was funny. Either way, it'll make for a good video in the end. I'm gonna compile some stuff.
Well, the record sounds great. I wouldn't worry about it. You should take a listen if you haven't heard it. Yeah. What else you've done? You've amplified your banjo, both acoustic and electric, in a lot of different formats, and tried a lot of different things. What kind of is without going too deep into it, what kind of, on your acoustic banjo, what's kind of your setup that you use?
Man, I have all the measurements written down, but I play songs that change keys a lot. And so I noticed that if I keep my banjo head tuned in, a half step up from the home, or a whole step up from the home key, it only rings certain frequencies for those keys. Like how the bluegrass guys playing an A all the time, so they want to tune that head in A too, even when the capo's off, which gives it a certain sound.
Yeah.
But since I might go up and play, I might have to play 16 bars in F sharp major at some point in what I do. So I want that to sound. I want that to ring true. So the Deering banjo really does. I mean, this Jens Kruger ring in this thing it's really great. I mean, I just have so many great things to say about this, but the guys at the workshop probably, when I send this in, they probably hate me. They're always putting screws back in it, and I take the screw out and I throw it away. I have a bag full of screws I could send back to you guys. I got like 10 of them, but somebody always cranks that back down. But I like this where you can see how high.
Right, you like the tailpiece, up more, and then the head a little bit looser, right?
Yeah, and I use an American banjo company frosted head because I like them. They're a little bit thicker. They don't wear out as soon as the Remos.
It gives you a little bit thicker sound, a little bit,
It just doesn't wear through and be clear.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I like the batter to stay on them because I don't like how they feel when they. I don't know. I have a little more grip. I like batter, guys. I use my Smile bridge. Actually, this isn't a Smile bridge. This is just a flat bottom, like Deering signature bridge.
Sure.
I use, I think, Deering medium light strings.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those medium lights are, they're.
Yeah. And how does the radius fingerboard affect you? Does it affect your left hand or your right hand a little bit more?
It actually took a lot of getting used to.
Yeah.
I like the wide fingerboard because I can get the note spacing I need to get my fingers in there to play a chord really clear. Right, I really like that. The radius, I'm sure it makes for a more comfortable grip that I don't. I haven't played a flat fretboard in a while, so I don't know. But I definitely like how wide it is. And I'm sure this radius, it isn't much of a radius. I mean, it's a very elegant radius. I'm sure that's made me a better player too, but I couldn't tell you just because.
Sure.
I certainly couldn't play this fluid on an instrument before I got one with a neck like this. When I first got this instrument, it took some getting used to because the spacing is wider, and I had to get my hand used to it.
Right.
But once I did, I really loved it.
Going back to your playing, sometimes you use the head as a rhythmic device. Sometimes. Do you want to kind of play an example of that?
Sure. Let's see. Sorry about the bounce.
All right.
All right. Let's see. I use it. It comes in handy in solo playing.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's really, I just do it when I miss a drummer.
Right.
So I just learned kind of how to play everything with that rhythm in my head, whether I play it or not.
And you get all three fingers to kind of hit the head?
Yeah, in between the strings.
Right.
In between whatever strings that they just played the chord on. I'll just go.
Yeah.
And so, let's see, what did I first do that on.
I saw there's that video of you doing it on Salt Creek or something.
Oh, Salt Creek, yeah. So I learned how to do it with a bunch of songs and. Just kind of trying to go for. I'm trying to be my own interactive drummer.
Yeah, but it also does it. It also helps in a certain way. It helps your phrasing, and in that it's like a horn player, you have to breathe. It almost forces you to take a rest, which banjo players kind of.
Yeah, I was inspired real young by how Victor Wooten accompanies himself in that rhythmic way.
Right.
So I learned how to do it. Like a horn band or a, some funk outfit or something. But I listened to all the funk standards in high school, and what better time to learn them all?
Right. Do you have any of those under your fingers still?
Let's see. I don't. Oh man, that's.
What
really...
about I think I've seen you play what was it? Pick Up the Pieces or something. That's great.
I forget some of the riffs. I remember having to improvise in Bill Evans's band with riffs. He wanted improvised funk riffs.
Right.
Right. I was trying to get away from funk at that point, just because everybody does it. You don't just be one of that guy plugs in and gets on stage and you're like, those guys that get in a coffee shop and do that for 2 hours. But he wanted me to be able to. Bill Evans didn't want me doing the percussive thing on the head of the banjo. He didn't like it because the drummer was already doing it.
The drummer's doing it, getting in the way.
Yeah.
But if you're in a string band, a stands drummer sort of band, it might work.
Yeah, and thanks to my practice for all those years with the percussion on the head, I could do it and.
Okay.
Right. You do it all day, but totally not banjo playing, but it works so well on the instrument because the instrument's so buoyant and plucky and percussive.
Right, the percussiveness works great for that.
I didn't quite know how to place myself for a long time with that. Like, this is total heresy, you know, bluegrass banjo. This funk playing is. If I started playing on a bluegrass tune at a jam session, for instance, and somebody's like, I don't know, you know, and I come in and I'm like. You know, that made a lot of people mad, right? But there's value in it. There was value in it for me because I had to do it to keep my job.
Okay.
So I wasn't really. It forced me to go back and visit my high school years, which I had just grown out of doing this band. I was like, oh, I gotta go back and do all that. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I moved on from it. I learned what I had to learn from funk, which was that internal pocket, and I wanted to keep that pocket. Without percussive anything, but I went back and learned all those. Sometimes he wanted me to comp, like funk comp like that, like real busy. Like he wanted. And sometimes he wanted that funk real sparse.
Right.
You know, sometimes he was like that.
Yep.
If the drums were there. You know, and just be able to improvise so I could change up as his improvising over it changed up too.
Right.
So it's very on par with how some of the African descendants or the ancestors of the modern banjo attack music.
Yeah.
You know, those African instruments with the heads on them, and some Indian ones, very percussive but melodic at the same time. So I draw a lot of my inspiration when I'm not playing traditional bluegrass styles of music. I draw a lot of my inspiration from those, you know, cousins of the banjo, because I like that music anyway. You know, Mali guitar, you know, guitar from the country of Mali, the sarod players. I like flamenco guitar a lot. So those are really kind of the only guitar stuff I listen to.
Do you ever listen to like West African, like Afro pop guitar players?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was just listening to some of that the other day. Fantastic stuff. The soundtrack in The Last King of Scotland. I just happened to watch that movie.
Okay.
Great Afro pop. The soundtrack in that movie is fantastic.
Cool.
But those are the banjo's relatives. So I mean that music. I want my improvising to evoke that. You know, if somebody from Africa comes to one of my shows, or from India, or you know, Mississippi or wherever, I want them to hear the music from where they came from in this banjo, at least a little bit. I mean, because you like people to know what you're going for. When you're going for something, it's like a lot of the bluegrass guys are like, "Well, he's just playing weird stuff. He just likes to be weird. That's weird," you know.
that actually segues absolutely beautifully, if you don't mind.
Oh, good. Yeah, please.
And the reason
myself talk.
No, you're doing fantastic. I received an email. I don't know whether you know our good friend Ernie Welch. Ernie. He just emailed me and he said, let me pull it up real quick. He said, get him to play a straight Scruggs just to show how he has that mastered too.
Okay. All right. We'll do that.
All right.
I don't know how straight I can go. Damn. Let's see. How many viewers do we have? 4?
No, right now we have 53 people watching.
Oh, it's great.
All from around the world. We have other questions as well, which I'll go to. They're very different questions. So, Ryan, just to check, how are you doing for time, man? Are you good?
I have all day. This is the only time we can hang out, and you're my only friends.
Well, we appreciate you. Right, let's hit some Scruggs. Let's do that first.
Very nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
For anybody doubting that he's just a funk guy and a jazz guy, there you go, straight up.
Did it as straight as I could. Did it as straight as I could. I'm glad I didn't. I could have easily veered off the road and crashed into a tree. It's hard now.
Okay, I have another question here from Alan Jones, if you don't mind, David. Alan's in the UK, where I'm from. Yeah. He says, in Celtic sessions in the UK and Ireland, most tunes are played in the keys of D, G, or A. Do you play in the same keys on the 5-string when you're doing Celtic stuff?
I do. Yep. I use a banjo, my other banjo that's tuned in G major.
Okay.
Instead of F.
And you keep it in G major for something in A?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll use a capo, or if it's A minor, I don't need a capo. But yeah, I play those songs all in their home key. And
okay.
If I had to do something like that, let's see if I can remember one of these. The Flowers of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Hello. So of course that is that's in the key of F right now that I'm playing it in, but if I had my other banjo, it would be in the correct key, in the position I'm playing it in. So.
Gotcha. Any more questions coming in, Jamie?
I think I got most of them on the chat. I did have a message here from wait 1 second. Ryan, it's Greg. I think it's Greg Taylor.
Okay.
Can't wait to get back to normal and Tennessee Brew Works, he says.
Oh, nice, cool.
There you go.
That's great. My buddy Scott Simontaki plays down there on Wednesdays in Nashville.
There you go.
When Society is working, and I used to go down there a bunch. Very cool.
There you go. Very cool. No, I think I've got no more questions here. Ryan?
Man, it's been great.
It's been a real pleasure. And I think it's really cool because we've had, I think this is now the 5th one we've done, something like that. And we've had a really nice array of musical guests. And they're all from different backgrounds, different inspirations, different, you know, forms, and it's really cool to have that mix. It's really good to see where different inspirations come from, you know. And so you are definitely up there in there, pulling inspiration from maybe areas that other people wouldn't think. So that's
a lot of people ask me why I don't, you know, play like a banjo player so much. There's just so many great banjo players playing like banjo players. Right. Sometimes I feel like I don't have anything to contribute, you know. And so I just go for whatever I do. But it's really nice to be here and among those banjo players that have been on this show.
It's the fastest growing online 5-string banjo specialist webinar series on the internet.
That's great. Is this pretty successful? How were the viewers for Tony Trishka? It had to be a bunch of people, huh?
It was pretty good. Everyone's had a really good share so far, and we're just doing our best to improve it. So, you know, we've got a lot of people tuning in from around the world. We had Baston just tuned in right now from Australia, Madrid, the UK, across the country in the US, Canada. So it's really cool to have everyone tuning in, and we appreciate it. And yeah, we want to keep it going and keep it even when things do get back to normal. I think this is going to be something that we do regularly because it's a really good opportunity to share and connect and catch up and
it's
have
fun.
A chat.
This is funny and fun.
Yes, it is. This is both. David, do you have anything else you want to add?
Not right now. Thanks a lot for coming out, Ryan. It was great, you know, great hanging out, great listening to you play and go over your techniques and everything.
I appreciate it. Yeah, guys, thank you for the good questions and the, you know, the banter. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And yeah, just wrapping up, would you mind, before I'm going to sign off, but would you mind playing us out when we're signing out? And if anyone watching, if you have any comments, suggestions, anything of that nature, info@deeringbanjos.com is the email address. You can always check out the website, deeringbanjos.com. And Ryan, where can people find you online, social media, all that kind of stuff?
RyanCavanaughBanjo.com. And I have 2 pages on Facebook and an Instagram. So you can find me on all those places.
You are embedded in the social media machine.
My artist page on Facebook is probably your best bet. And I've curated it just for the music listeners. Perfect. I don't have aunts and uncles chiming in on weird posts.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for your time today. And please stay safe out in Nashville. And hopefully things get back to normal sooner rather than later. But look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Great. Thanks. I'm going to play you out with a piece I wrote for, I'll just let you guess who I wrote this for. I called this Triple Loser. I listened to Jack White and I liked the groove, so it has some of the percussion stuff in it. But here goes Triple Loser.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, bye guys.
Bye-bye.